Hello. That's weird. I find it weird to be like, hello, when you open a video, man. Like, I don't know. Let's get to it. So we're back. P5 basics. We are in it. Let's talk about it. So, what is that? I guess I wanted to spend this episode, what is it? Talking about the reference. And you remember I kind of skipped over this. Well, let's finish up the navigation. Let's get into some code stuff. So about let's just go ahead and see where this takes us. About is just, telling like examples and learn. They have their own tutorials, which is really helpful, but it can be a little confusing. But this website is where we're going to be at for a lot of things. And it will tell you like, just a direct version of like what I'm talking about, and they'll explain it in like their own way. They're very cute, very fun, very helpful. Like these things are very helpful, and I would use this as a supplement to like what I'm teaching. Like there's also like different like programming courses. Daniel Schiffman, a coding train on YouTube, very helpful, very helpful. I've looked at his videos like more than once, and like yeah, super helpful. So the reference, right? You can go to about, and you can click on the reference. Cancel. Okay. You can go to help, about, and click on the reference, and that'll take you to the reference. But the quick way is just to do help reference. Reference is the guide that I was talking about. What is it? In the last video. This is the guide that I was talking about. So reference will tell you all about different functions, primitive functions in the library, right? So p5js is called a JavaScript library, and that library houses primitive functions. It houses functions that you can reference, right? So for example, fart is not a primitive function. Fart, because they're saying down here, I don't know what fart is because we haven't defined fart. But background, right, the one that it started with, that is a primitive function. Create canvas, that's a primitive function. That's something that basically the library already knows what it is. Library is like, yeah, I know what that is. I made it. So I hit play, and now we got action. Something's happening. That's when something happens in code. It can be the most satisfying thing because code can be frustrating, but something happens. And let's see what background does, right? Let's see what background does. So a funny thing that I'm going to do here that you learned last week is control find. Chrome has a control find too, and I can type in background. All right. And let's go to background. And it's showing you like there are different colors. Like, oh shit, that's what background does. Background controls the color of the background. Let's type in 51. Right? So it's changing the colors what is it? So these are RGB. So it's saying like if you input 1 or if you input 3, you'll get RGB. You change the color mode. So let's do a little bit of this. So let's see. This is how I like to start off like sketches, right? I like to say 0, 0, 0, right? And I think that's black. And this is RGB. So like the base of it starts in RGB, so that's red, blue, green, right? And it balances the red, blue, and green to make that center color. If you've ever seen like a color wheel, right? That's what it does. So now it got like a whole bunch of blue, and now we're gonna put a whole bunch of green and blue, and now it's making the midpoint between blue and green, right? And if I add red, then we're just gonna go all the way to white. Well, I guess gray. Wait, 255? 255, my mistake. Let me show you. These colors go from 0 to 255. RGB colors go to 0 to 255 instead of like 0 to 100. I'm used to working with 0 to 100 for a different reason. I'll explain that in a moment. But these colors go to 255, and then, you know, I can jack it up. So now I have 255 red right here, 255 blue, and 255, well, I have 100, what is it, RGB. 100 blue, 255 green, 255 red. But this is 255, you get white, right? 0, 0, 0, I'm gonna get black. I don't necessarily like this, right? Like, this isn't where I'm most comfortable. I'm more comfortable with a different color, capital N, mode. I'm comfortable with a different color mode. And that color mode is going to be, right? And to do this, what I did is I typed color mode as I would just on a keyboard, and I hit the, you know, Shift 9 and Shift 0, right? And that gave me the parentheses, right? And that's how you're going to do a function and then give it an argument, right? Argument goes inside the parentheses. And you close it off with a semicolon. This is the base of like everything. Function, parentheses that takes an argument, and then semicolon to close, right? Semicolon is gonna close it. So I like to use color mode HSB. See how it turned pink? Because it knew what it was. Like, it already knew like what it was. And it's like, okay, well, let's say like Keenan just typed in HSB. I don't know what the hell that is. Help, reference. Let's see if we can find, oh, it's right here. See it? Color mode. There are different color modes. So there's RGB and HSB. I don't know what the 100 means. So let's check. The easiest way, like when you open up a reference and you open up a function, right? This primitive function, you scroll all the way down and it'll tell you the parameters. And this is the arguments that it's gonna take. Color mode, right? And max. So I think you can just set the max value. So it just sets the max range. I don't necessarily know if it changes what the max naturally would be, but you can play with it. And also in hue, saturation, lightness, right? It's the same thing. It's just hue, saturation, brightness, and hue, saturation, lightness. But I like hue, saturation, brightness, and I'll show you exactly why. So color mode HSB. So now this is going to be different, right? This does not make sense to the code anymore. So let's go back to 0, 0, 0. Right? It's going to take us back to black. If I put 100 in here with this active, right? Now we have this new code. It's going to turn white, right? If I comment out this code, so I'm gonna hit Control slash, right? And that deactivates the code. When you comment out something, it deactivates it, right? And if I have it highlighted and hit Control, slash, it'll uncomment it and that will reactivate the code. But commenting it or putting 2 slashes in front of it, right? I can just, that deactivates the code. So now it won't do anything. So I can press play. There's nothing, right? There's not even a box anymore, right? Because I commented it out. So that's how you would write comments. So what is it? If I turn this back on, this is blue, right? This code is not active. This code is not active, so this is blue because it's using color mode RGB. Color mode RGB, right? Red, green, blue is its base. So it's going to keep using color mode RGB unless we change it, right? So now I reactivated the code by deleting the slashes. Now it's back to white because it's processing at hue, saturation, and brightness, right? Brightness controls like how dark it is, of course, and how bright it is, right? Do 10, it's just going to get a little lighter. Do 100, it's going to go all the way, right? Saturation is how faded, right? A good way is to say faded, how faded the thing is. So we're on red. 0 is hue, right? So that's the color. 0, the first one is just pure color, the first argument. And you see like how there's a comma right here. Arguments are separated by commas. So you put 0, 50, 100, right? So every time you want to separate a different argument that you're giving a function, you want to use a comma to separate it for, JavaScript, I believe. Let's see. So I changed the saturation, and I can change it to 100, and it's going to make it more bright, right? So it's going to make it more bright, more vibrant rather, less vibrant, almost dull, like a dullness. So let's do 50 for what I want. And let's change this to 100 and like see what happens on the color. All right, changes the color. 150. We're just going to keep going through hues. 360 is where hue ends. So that takes us all the way back to red. So it's the max values for these are 360, 100, 100, and it's red. And the lowest value is 0, 0, 0. And that takes us to black. If you have 0 here, it goes red to red and goes all the way through the colors. 0 here, 0 to 100, it goes all the way through, like, from full gray, right? Gray and black values all the way to fully vibrant colors. And this final one is like, okay, how like dark or light it will be, basically. What is it? Where do we go next? So let's see. I think I'm gonna end this video here because I don't want to overwhelm, but this is how you do like a basic setup, right? This is a basic setup. You know what? I'm gonna talk about one more thing, and that's this create canvas. It's kind of doing what you might have already guessed it's doing. This is the X value. That's the Y value, right? So this is the width, and this is the height. So if I change this to 600, it got longer, you see? The canvas can stretch because you're making it as long as you want. Now you can get very fun with it. Like you can play with how like long it is. You can play with how tall it is. You can play with how short it is, how wide it is. You can play with the dimensions, right? And these are just your dimensions. And I think that's the last thing I wanted to mention for this. All right, and we could just keep changing values. It does not matter what you change it to, as long as it works for you. All right. So that's gonna do it for this episode. I just wanted to get us set up in terms of like working with the background, finding the reference, and playing with the canvas, and just playing with color mode and like learning a little bit about the basics of what's happening, just the basics of what's going on. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next episode. Bye.
Now, tonight's adventure into the unknown, into the world of...
I love you for it.
Love you too.